Hello everyone, this is presentation of A Beautiful Light Promoting Fascination Against Depletion. I am Martina Frattura, an architectural lighting designer, part of the class 2020 of the 40 under 40, graduated at KTH Stockholm while researching at the Human Technology Interaction Department of TUI in Eindhoven. I'm part of the artistic duo La Mia Paura Bianca, and I'm currently running an independent experimental research on how lighting can help with maintaining the attention level using the personal concept beauty as a variable. I'm going to present you my work and my findings, but first I would like to give you a bit of background on how I get here. We are aware that any given space can be the reason why we do or we don't use our mental energies. In this direction, environmental psychology investigated over the environmental preferences between natural versus built environments, showing that the first ones were associated with restoration, which is a word that is used when resting from the mental fatigue, whatever stress has been draining us, in order to be able to start back with a renovated state of energy. This shows actually the ease to get fascinated of a natural environment because of its innate potential. And with this setting, our attention is effortlessly engaged by the beauty of the places, allowing fascination to occur. Unfortunately, though, us, spend most of our time in artificial spaces and not in natural ones. And this is the reason why it takes more time to restore our mental energies, or at least it needs another approach. Industrial design, psychology, social science have been trying to fill this gap, starting from the consideration of permeability and subjectivity. The balance between these two is what allows us to predict some general patterns of human responses to outside stimuli, to spot elements that could help us restore from attentional fatigue in a built environment by employing those patterns for behavioral guidance through design of objects and spaces. These clues turn to be nudges. These words stand for giving a hint towards a certain attitude, thought, or action in trying to induce a big group of people to share a similar emotion. Is the beauty a nudge? Can we say this? As per it happens in the natural environment, can beauty be the indoor nudge? According to environmental psychology, again, for instance, while people are used to saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, it is important to notice that personality is a fundamental feature to evaluate the degree of preference of outside stimulation. Further, on a smaller scale as well, from the product design field, we could learn that due to the formation of an emotional connection with the object, aesthetics please users to be more effective by establishing a feeling of affinity for the appealing element. This is what could be related to the sensation of fascination that a person experiences outdoors. So despite the consideration of beauty as a pure aesthetic feature, once applied to a bigger field of investigation, it often appears to turn into a fundamental factor. But you might have asked, why am I digging into the concept of beauty to bring fascination indoors? So according to the professor of neuroaesthetic at UCL London, Samir Zeki, the perception of beauty doesn't derive from something which is outside of us, but resides in the brain. And by examining MRI images of his subjects' brains, in fact, it showed that when people look at something they find beautiful, a portion in the front part of the brain called the medial orbitofrontal cortex fires, as well as they see something which is considered unpleasant, another part of the brain is stimulated. So there must be something that channels and addresses the signal to different parts. As a lighting designer and passionate, we know that light as an impression involves more than one sensation and is needed for more than one purpose, besides creating a hierarchy of values, establishing what is important to see, where it's nice to feel or safe, and all the perceptual experiences. In fact, the discovery of the photosensitive retinal ganglion cells in 2002, which is a third type of non-visual retinal receptor cells that through the retinohypothalamic tract goes directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, also called CNC, is the milestone to the new approach to the study of lighting effects. Whatever a person sees, by creating the visual consciousness, he or she can be driven towards a certain feeling, at least can be placed in the position to do so. So, considering the already discussed research of the physical influence of the light on the brain, if we merge the innate pursuit of the beauty and the ability of the light to modulate our feelings by stimulating specific part of the brain, it is possible to understand the potential effect that a carefully controlled light scenario can have on people by playing on both psychological and physical level. It is from this that my experimental research project sets up from. A Beautiful Light investigates on the potential effect that personal idea of beauty has in indoor spaces onto the possibility of reproducing that fascination, restoration feeling, translating into a maintained attention level via a controlled light scene. I have started my research visiting 10 different countries to meet 16 volunteers in each of it who helped me gather qualitative data and to look for a trend in the physiological response of people to beauty. Nations were Bulgaria, Portugal, Iceland, Italy, UK, Turkey, Sweden, Canada, Greece, and Spain. And the gathered sample were 8 men and 8 women between the age group of 20 and 40 years old. While using an EEG instrument to monitor the brain activity, the participants were asked to perform a 15-minute experiment. Imaging to design a test was, in fact, based on the participants being totally blind and pleased by the environment around them, without the feeling to be under investigation experimentation. In order to be like, according to the author, in fact, a person aware of being under observation is going to act in a different way, and we wanted to avoid this. So, while the location and the beauty reference that was an item, as I'm going to explain better after, required from each participant, were mutating, the room feature as per having plain and or white walls, no artificial light turning on, in a specific test time slot, which was in the morning, just always before lunchtime, lunch break, were the actual conditions for this test. The first moment of the test was an introductory space that wanted to act as a buffer zone. Participants were in fact asked to look at 2 pre-selected images for a minute in total. Participants were also asked to carry with them a symbol of their own idea of beauty, which could be a picture of a person, an object, a postcard of a town. And that, as we can see in this picture here, is what is the second moment of the test, which was about looking at their own beauty in an emblem, whatever they felt could be identified as an object of fascination, and stare at it for 5 minutes. So this can be identified as a proper attention task. At last, there was a third moment, which can be identified as a proper fast recall test. So a list of 10 letters was presented, one at a time, on the screen, and their task was to remember as many of the letters as possible. It was very important, the act of doing the test as an objective meter of the participant attention span. In fact, no record of the result was actually marked. The experiment was inspired by the investigation of environmental psychologists like Rachel Hoffman, Emily Scott, Spencer Castro, of the Department of Psychology of University of Utah, and designed with the contribution of several professionals, with the goal of looking specifically at alpha and theta waves matching 2 hypotheses. In fact, while in environmental psychology, the prolonged exposure to nature would decrease attention fatigue. In this test, personal beauty reference would have done the same, with the evidence of a decrease in the midline frontal theta frequency. Same again, while in natural environments, stimuli can capture attention and increase alertness, therefore decreasing what is mind rumination. In this test, beauty allows fascination to occur, which can be measured through mind wandering and an increase of power in posterior alpha frequency. In order to analyze according to this experiment that I just showed you, I joined the Department of Data Analysis, Faculty of Psychological Educational Science of the University of Ghent in Belgium, to delineate and to get the confirmation of a method to analyze the data gathered. And in these days, I'm working with the help of the head of the laboratory, Daniele Marinazzo, and with the data analyst, Massimiliano Mancini Tortora. While analyzing this data, we have mapped the effects of the fascination to people in an indoor environment. And we are creating a theoretical and experimental interdisciplinary basis to serve as in the next step of the research. But while talking about this, our data processing was divided into the acquisition of the raw data and the processing of that. In this slide, we can see the acquisition of the raw data given by 14 EEG channels as per the headset I was provided. We gathered around 500 EEG, and despite we couldn't start it as per cleaning it with ICA analysis, we started to processing the data manually in order to remove any bad channel on any bad time span of all these around 500 EEG channels, in order to provide a clean file and a clean data to be analyzed. In this slide, we can see an image of a scheme from the bunch of electrodes that we will take an examination in order to analyze just the theta electrodes, which are the F3, F4, F7, and F8, which F stands for frontal. But not only quantitative reading, but also qualitative reading was supposed to be done during this test. In fact, the several different destinations were chosen in order to run the experiment without cultural and/or climate biases. But according to the qualitative results indicated, the most recurrent reference of beauty all over the countries, we can see that there are not so many reference groups. In fact, they are just family partners, pets, objects of affection, landscape, sky or anything that is above our head, and just a small percentage of other beauty emblems group. So this, despite the variety of people and destination, this was a very interesting discovery that no matter people, volunteers, participants in this case, were running the test, they were, and without knowing what it was the object of fascination given and taken from the other participants, they were all carrying object or pictures of object or pictures of other of places and people very similar to each other. The second part of the research will consist of a definition of the characteristics such like direction, intensity, color, temperature, frequency of the light source, and position of the luminaire that the light stimulus in a certain indoor environment should have to trigger a stimulus physiological response that has been registered and analyzed before. The goal is designing a lighting scenario that can contribute to the overall well-being of the people in space, in particular those who stay in a office, and might benefit from having an environment that helps with maintaining the focus without depleting all their mental resources. Same number of participants will be performing the same type of test, but this time in a control lab. So we won't be traveling, but we will ask the same numbers of 160 participants to reach us and to perform the same type of test, but also with few test lighting scenario in order to see which is the best one to strike the same effect. So what is the sex combination that artificial lighting should have to help people feel better? A total and complete human-centered lighting care is the main goal of the present and future designer who are able to get access to a wider knowledge, in this case also to scientific and academic paper, and to be able to collect scientific quantitative data in order to provide a better lighting solution. Thank you.